Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Top 10 video. Today we will be going over the top 10 best girl characters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! So that is from Duel Monsters all the way up until Vrains. A lot of characters to analyze. This video, I think, will be on the plus 20-minute side because I really went in depth with a lot of the characters on this list. I have not done a top 10 characters list in a long time, and this was a very fun list to make. It was a very difficult list to make as well because there's a lot of, I don't want to say mediocre, but there's a lot of okay girl characters. I don't think we've ever seen a really incredible girl character that has been incredible the entire duration of a Yu-Gi-Oh show. So it was very tough to rank characters because of that, but I still had a lot of fun making this list, and I hope you guys do enjoy the video. So grab something to drink, grab something to eat, sit back and enjoy the top 10 best girls in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Without further ado, let's begin. I hope you guys leave your list down below as well.
Just making this list is also the youngest girl on this list, and that is Ruka, or Luna in the dub, from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Ruka is the younger twin of Rua, or Leo in the dub, and probably has one of the coolest abilities in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Canon. There are only a select few characters that can communicate with dual spirits, Yugi and Judai to name a few, and Ruka, I believe, was the only character that had this ability in 5Ds. In fact, her mind is even able to transport her to the dual spirit world. While seeing the dual spirit world through Ruka's point of view was so cool, the reason that she isn't higher up on this list is that she was really more of a background character than anything else. That might be a little harsh, but even though she was a signer, she probably had the least amount of action out of all the signers. In fact, her brother Rua got more screen time and duel time than her, and that was way before he was even a signer. She had a great moment where she helped her brother and Jack defeat Aporia at the end of Season 5, but besides from that, she only had one other win, and that was against Divok. Technically, it was a win for her twin Rua as well, since he had to take over the duel for her when she got lost in the spirit world. It was a really cool duel nevertheless, but she went the whole show without a single 1-versus-1 win, and she was a signer. We talk about Aki getting the short end of the stick down the road during 5Ds all the time, but I would argue that Ruka got some of the worst treatment the entire show as well, which is a shame because her abilities made her such an interesting character. Still, Ruka was always fun to watch, and she takes the 10 spot on this list. Making this list at the 9th spot is Rio from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. I think it says a lot in itself that Rio makes this list, and she didn't even formally debut until about halfway into the show. She actually didn't even have her first duel until episode 79. As most of us already know, there is a lot more than meets the eye with Rio, as she is also Mirag, one of the 7 Baryon Emperors. She sides with the Baryons mainly because her brother Shark does, and she was determined to stay by her brother's side no matter what. The thing I loved about Rio is how much confidence she has as a duelist. Despite being hospitalized thanks to a gruesome incident before the show started, her determination and electric personality never wavered, and she was always a fun character to watch on screen. When she turned into Mirag, she definitely had shown small signs that she still cared for the people who left an impact on her. This was most apparent when she defeated Tetsu and shed a tear as his body was absorbed and he died. She ultimately was unable to stop Vector and died after losing to him, sharing one final moment with her brother. Rio played a really important role in the story of Zexal 2, and had she been present for the first 70 episodes of the show, she easily would be much higher on this list. Still, for a character that was introduced to us so late, it's still a really respectable spot for Rio Kamishiro. Coming in at the 8th spot on this list is the main girl lead from Arc 5, and that is Yuzu Hiragi. It's funny because I made a list similar to this a couple of years ago, which was the top 5 girl leads in Yu-Gi-Oh! I actually had Yuzu second on that list. That was when Arc 5 was in the mid-90s, I believe, and at the time, I felt if Yuzu ended strongly, she could pretty convincingly be the best girl character we have ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Unfortunately, a strong ending was not what Yuzu had at all. She started out really cool, had a stunning win against Yuya, the first time a girl has beaten the main protagonist in over a decade, and that's only if you count Rebecca Hawkins defeating Yugi, and she had an awesome rivalry with Masumi. She always tried to better herself in terms of dueling, and she did this by learning how to master fusion summoning. The first 46 episodes, she was such a joy to watch and was a really amazing, strong character, dueling 7 times and only losing once. However, the turning point for her, in my opinion, was when she faced Yuri in episode 47. Yuri was dominating dominating her so badly that they didn't even show this duel to us. The only thing they showed was her running away and crying because of how strong Yuri was. Great for Yuri, not such a great look for Yuzu, who had been such a strong-willed character up to this point. Yugioh saves her, and they get transported to the fusion dimension. I could forgive this Yuri moment pretty easily, but the thing that really killed her character was that she did not have one duel after episode 83. That's right, the last 62 episodes of the show, she didn't duel once. She was reduced to a damsel in distress, was kidnapped multiple times during this span, was launched through a building. She just became a punching bag, and to see her fall from grace as a character was honestly really hard to watch. I can't overlook how amazing she was in the first quarter of the show, which is why she still makes this list, but the way her character just collapsed down the stretch is why she just makes this list for me at the number 8 spot. Coming in at number 7 is Mai from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. The reason Mai is pretty low on this list is because I always took issue with how she really wasn't that good of a duelist. Let me explain. Mai was advertised to us as this amazing, strong duelist at the beginning of the show. A woman who only cared about power and fame, not caring about what means it takes to get that fame. The problem is, after defeating Rex Raptor in an off-screen duel, she wins one duel for the first 150 episodes against a named character. And that named character that she defeats is Jean-Claude Magnum. So for the first 3 years Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters aired, she won a whopping one time against a one-off character. Luckily for Mai, wins and losses aren't everything, otherwise there was no way she would make this list for me. The real reason she makes this is the character progression and arc that she experiences. After meeting Yugi and company, she realizes the meaning of friendship, cliched in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sure, but this was a big turning point and reevaluation for her. When she doubts the meaning of friends and thinks she would be better off alone, she loses to Marek and gets trapped in this eternal hell until Yugi defeats Marek and saves her. She then falls into depression after Battle City and is manipulated by Doma into joining their society. Mai finally gets some impressive wins under her belt, defeating Pegasus and Joey in the same season. Had it not been for Season 4, Mai probably wouldn't have made this list for me, so I guess filler in Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't a complete waste of time. In my opinion, Mai is the 7th best girl character in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Grabbing the 6th spot on this list is Emma Besso from Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. Even though Vrains is still ongoing, I don't think Emma's spot will really fluctuate that greatly, given the type of character she is. Emma is very, very similar to Mai, and really is the first girl Mai-esque character we have had in a long time. Similarly to Mai, Emma is mainly focused on her goals, and will go through whatever means necessary to achieve those goals. The difference between her and Mai, and a big reason why I have her ranked a bit higher than Mai, is that dueling success is secondary for Emma. Her main driving force is money. She doesn't really care how or who she gets money from, and is best described as a hit woman for hire in Link Vrains, where she changes into her ghost girl persona. So sure, Emma may not have the best dueling record, losing 2 of her only 3 duels in the show so far, but since her main driving character force is not based on successful dueling like Mai's was, it doesn't really harm her character if she loses often, since she more than likely will still be achieving her end goals in some way, shape, or form. Emma is already showing a character change, as she seems to be more considerate in Season 2, even taking Aizen Aizen under her wing, which may or may not be a good thing. Emma is another character in Vrains that is hard to get a read on. It seems, for now, she is on Playmaker's side, but will that change down the road if someone makes her an offer she can't refuse? It easily might. She is definitely one of the more unique girl characters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is something that I and many others have really enjoyed about her. She just misses out on the top 5 of this list. Coming in at number 5 is certainly one that probably will not be on many people's lists, and that is Shizu Ishtar, aka the best girl from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. I usually have one unpopular choice on every top 10 list I create, and I definitely think Shizu in the top 5 will be considered a pretty uncommon opinion. I feel like Shizu gets overlooked often, but she truly plays one of the most important and vital roles in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and manga. Shizu is Marek's older sister, and is more importantly the holder of the Millennium Necklace, the only girl character that holds a Millennium item. The necklace allows her to foresee future events. This necklace, along with her steadfast will to serve the Pharaoh thanks to her family's duty, makes her an extremely dangerous force and duelist. Even Yami Marek acknowledged her strength and called her a fearsome person to be reckoned with. she easily qualifies for the Battle City quarterfinals, which is certainly impressive enough. She had Kaiba completely outmatched and beaten in that quarterfinals matchup, but ultimately, Kisara and Marek's Millennium Rod end up screwing a Shizu and gave Kaiba the win, as he was able to change the future that her necklace had shown. Shizu is also the main reason that Battle City even happens in the first place. She prevents her brother from obtaining all 3 God cards by taking Obelisk the Tormentor. She then gives Kaiba Obelisk and gets him to hold the tournament. What I love about Shizu is the duality she faced her entire life. Not only did she always remain loyal to the Pharaoh, she also never lost faith in her brother, even when her brother wanted to kill the Pharaoh, and even when her brother killed their father in front of her. All of her motivations were based around saving her brother from Yami Marek, and to take a step back and realize how much she did to pull the strings during the Battle City arc is actually remarkable. She definitely wins the best award for greatest sister ever. I always have loved Shizu's design as well. To me, she is the second best designed girl character in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Either way, Shizu's role in the show is remarkable, and I feel gets overlooked a lot of the times. She was a brilliant character to watch. She deservedly takes the 5 spot on this list. This is one that can either go pretty high up or pretty far down depending on how she has handled the second half of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. Coming in at 4 for now is Aizen, the leading girl in Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. Vrains is at episode 68 when I am uploading this video, just for reference. Aizen so far has been a really interesting character. I think that's the best word to use. Interesting, which is not a good or bad thing in this case. While I personally love the contrast between her real-life persona and Link Vrain's persona, Blue Angel, or now known as Blue Girl, my concern with her is how she has been treated and will be treated in the future. I think it is really cool that as Aizen, she is this reserved, shy girl who doesn't seem to have many friends, but then as soon as she goes into the Vrains, she becomes this vibrant, larger-than-life person who is idolized by so many people. I think it actually speaks to the whole celebrity lifestyle extremely well. You would think that Blue Angel would be so happy in real life, as you would think a celebrity would be very happy with all the fame and fans in real life. However, this is not always the case. We have unfortunately seen so many celebrities, even very recently, take their own life, which is a heartbreaking realization that fame and fans really don't mean anything. Not saying that Aizen is on the cusp or anything like that, but she really seems to be a pretty depressed person in the real world, and I think the writers have tackled that topic so incredibly well with her character. Unfortunately, we have been seeing this really compelling character duality less and less as the show has gone on. In terms of her duel time, she has not gotten a win since episode 26, which was 42 episodes ago. I am worried that with all the seemingly important and prominent characters in Vrains, she will be casted to the side, very similarly to how Yuzu, Asuka, and Aki were in their shows as well. So, this is a position that can either go pretty high up if she gets treated really well down the stretch, or can drop to the 8 to 10 range on this list if she continues to get casted to the side. Here's to hoping that when it's all said and done, Aizen will be one of the better girl characters we have seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! She certainly has the potential to be one. Taking the bronze on this list is the best girl in Arc 5, and that is Serena. Serena is Yuzu's fusion counterpart and is one of the 4 reincarnations of Rei Akaba. I personally love Serena's independence and fiery personality. That, to me, is what made her stand out from the other Bracelet girls in Arc 5. I also felt there was a good amount of dimension and exposition with her character, despite a very crowded Arc 5 cast. She originated from academia, and it was shown to us in a flashback that she tried to escape confinement because she wanted to fight in the war against the Xyz dimension. Leo Akaba obviously wouldn't let her, since she was vital for his plans to revive Rei. She managed to escape, accompanied with Barrett, and tried to destroy any Xyz duelist in Standard. She quickly learned about the horrors of academia's plans and had a change of heart. This is where her character became on a level playing field with Yuzu, the main girl lead in Arc 5, whose character also got off to a great start. However, we then went to the Synchro Dimension, where arguably Serena took over as the lead female in the show. She lost a really enjoyable duel to Yugioh, and then unfortunately was brought back to Academia in episode 92. After that, almost all of the Bracelet girls became sidelined and were never really used again, not including the revival of Rei or the brainwashed gimmick. But here's the thing, Serena was the only Bracelet girl in Arc 5 who did not have to rely on a U-Boy for relevance. Without Yugioh, who's saving Rin? Yuta with Ruri. Heck, even Yugioh with Yuzu, even though yes, Yuzu did make more connections than Ruri and Rin, but Yuzu's only line for the last 25 episodes of the show was shouting Yuya. Even when all of the Bracelet Girls became kind of underwhelming at the end, Serena still had that individual pride and independence that made us all fall in love with her at the start of the show. She was pretty much the opposite of a damsel in distress, and her independence again is a trait that you don't really see too often in Yu-Gi-Oh! Girls, especially a trait that lasts throughout the entirety of the show. So, Serena, for me, takes the bronze medal on this list. Coming in at second place is Asuka Tenjoin, or Alexis Rhodes in the dub, the main girl lead from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Asuka is an obelisk blue duelist in the show, and is even considered to be the queen of the obelisks. She arguably to date has some of the best early build-up of any girl character in terms of dueling ability. The one thing I never really liked that much about Asuka is that I don't think she really ever lived up to that billing. For the greatest girl duelist in the academy, she never really defeated any major character in an important duel. Her most impressive win was actually her first on-screen win, which wasn't until episode 41, a Shadow Rider duel against Titan. Regardless of her dueling, Asuka was still a solid girl character and did get a fair amount of screen time. She actually had the most on-screen duels out of any girl in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, which is a pretty awesome record to have. Her main driving force, besides wanting to be a professional duelist/teacher, was to find out what happened to her brother Fubuki, or Atticus, who mysteriously disappeared before the show began. She is even seen venturing to the abandoned dorm by herself, which I think speaks to her bravery and loyalty as a character pretty well. I also loved how even though she was in with the popular girls, she didn't really let that popularity and her position of power go to her head. She was a very sweet yet strong-willed and confident girl throughout the show. Much like all of the girls on this list, there was a pretty heavy down period for Asuka, and hers came in Season 3. After her second loss to Judai, she didn't duel for 67 episodes until the tag duels in Season 4. Season 3 saw her temporarily get killed off and pushed to the side as many of the GX characters did. Asuka almost confessed to Judai at the end of the show that she liked him, maybe even loved him, but was unable to get the words out. She ends up losing to Truman towards the end of the show and falls into darkness until she is once again saved by Judai. Her character in Seasons 3 and 4 were definitely not at the level of her Season 1 and 2 arcs, but still, Asuka is one of the stronger girl characters we have seen in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and thus, she takes the runner-up spot on my list. Before we get to the number 1 spot, I just want to go over some honorable mentions. Anzu or Taya from Duel Monsters. Might be a surprise to some people that I put her as an honorable mention, but she never really annoyed me as much as she annoyed most people, and I felt she fit her role as a supporting, non-dueling character really well. Serenity from Duel Monsters. Hey, if anyone endures the awful life that she endured and can still remain in as high spirits as her, it's a miracle. She's a pleasant character and someone who I always thought was very inspirational. Unfortunately, she didn't do quite enough to earn a spot for me on this list. Carly from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Had she not been completely casted away after the Dark Signers arc, she most likely would have made this list. Sherry from 5Ds. Much like why Rio was a bit low for me, had Sherry been shown to us earlier in the 5D storyline, she definitely would have made this list. Too little, too late for her in my opinion, although I still feel like she was a very solid character despite debuting so late in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Droid or Dextra from Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. I always liked Droid a lot, and for very similar reasons as to why Carly did not make this list, I didn't feel like Droid did enough after the halfway point of Zexal. Those are a few honorable mentions, all characters that I considered for the top 10 while making this list. The best waifu, I mean girl in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, if you have not figured it out by process of elimination yet, in my opinion, is Aki Izayoi or Akiza Azinski, the main girl lead from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I said earlier that I felt a Shizu had the second best girl design in Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, Aki takes the number 1 for me pretty easily. I have always thought Aki was a beautifully designed character. From her red hair to her Victorian wardrobe, she was always just a really aesthetically pleasing character to look at, and thankfully she is way more than just a pretty character to look at. Aki has a great, powerful character story for the first half of 5Ds. I feel like she redefined female characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! At the start of 5Ds. They do a great job of giving her an independent identity that does not rely on the main protagonist, and giving her a really great background story. Aki is the only girl that has so many issues and challenges. I mean, the girl is absolutely insane when we first see her. She is known for doing Marek-esque faces, as you can see by these pictures. I love girl characters in general who are independent and can fight for themselves, and I feel like Aki is the embodiment of that. I mean, for crying out loud, Yusei even says to her at the end of the show that he was terrified of her. The story her character told was, I think, the best, most diverse story any girl character in Yu-Gi-Oh! Has told. However, even Aki is not immune from the misused, casted-away treatment of Yu-Gi-Oh! Girls. After the Dark Signers arc, they really didn't do anything with her character. She kind of loses that independence and becomes more infatuated with Yusei, and what made her great in the first half of the show kind of fizzles away during the second half of the show. She gets her D-Wheel license, has a good win against Sherry, becomes an accomplished doctor in the future, and her and Yusei do hook up at the end of the show. Well, I guess that's another theory in itself, but ladies and gentlemen, you do not close your eyes when you are that close to someone unless you are about to kiss. I mean, even look at how they disembrace and how Aki runs off with a massive smile on her face. I think the writers implied it pretty heavily, but of course they cut away, and so we will never know for sure. Classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Tease. However, back on topic, Aki got seemingly screwed over by potentially the popularity of Black Wings and the fact Carly's voice actress was part of a cult, which is why Divine became irrelevant after Season 1. I believe even Aki's voice actress took time off due to pregnancy. Don't quote me on that, which also led to her not getting much screen time in the later seasons as compared to the first two seasons. Despite being sidelined down the road in 5Ds, her character still tells an amazing story. The story of a girl who was shunned by everyone in her life and has to learn to love herself and her psychic powers. On top of that, she was a great duelist and only ever lost to Yusei, who nobody in the show could beat, so there's no shame in that. Aki, in my opinion, is the greatest girl character that we have ever seen in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. And that about wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my top 10 girls in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I am so excited to hear from all of you down below in the comments section. Let me know your top 10 lists, top 5 lists, top 3 lists, or your favorite girl character, whatever lists you want to leave down below. I would love to hear from you guys, and definitely my top 10 girls are going to be much different than anyone else's top 10 girls. Might have some similarities, but there's no way that people are going to agree with this list every single pick, and that is the beauty of having an opinion in this community. I really cannot wait to hear from all of you down below. Special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, and James Rose, and to my Diamond tier patron bouldergeist, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons Syn Cloud and Odd Eyes Vaughn. Thank you so much to everyone who supports me over on Patreon, and thank you guys so much for just watching these videos. I have a feeling this is going to be a very long video, so I am going to cut myself off there. Thank you all again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will talk to you down below, and I hope you have an amazing day. 早めに捨てよう明日に進むだけだから自分らしさ探し